animation by far is one of the greatest things ever. I really mean it. If you met someone who said, I love movies, of course they're going to list off the obvious films. The Godfather, Reservoir Dogs, Shawshank Redemption, you know, that whole trip. And sneak in maybe, I don't know, Dave and the Magic Pearl. Anyone else ever watch it? Just me? Okay. The truth is, animation is quite the magical idea. It brings forward to life any crazy, wild ideas you have lingering in the back of your mind. Give to yourself things that surely couldn't be done, but then you see it for yourself and you just go, wow, way to make me look like a jackass. Some of these ideas could be, what if toys had feelings? Or what if the clouds rained hamburgers? Or even,
it's like Freaky Friday, but on a Tuesday though.
Yeah, that's good, you know, that's good. I watched a ton of animated stuff as a kid, and some of them still remain my favourite programs, and I have fond memories of them. Other stuff? Not as much, but there is still plenty to admire or even discuss about it. One of these shows I did see growing up was Totally Spies. Totally Spies, not to be confused with Maybe Spies, not in a million years Spies, and definitely without a cloud of a doubt Spy, is about a trio of young girls from Beverly Hills who are hired by an organization to become super secret agents and stop criminals who felt ostracized by society for some reason in the past, and so logically conclude, oh, world domination, that's why I didn't become a cheerleader. It all makes sense now. I can relate. One time, I ordered a pizza and it didn't arrive for an hour. I contacted them the whereabouts of where they were, but I really should have made it my lifelong ambition to ruin the company I ordered from. Hindsight is not 2020. I distinctly remember whenever this show came on, I would say, oh, okay, yeah, sure, I'll give it a watch. It wasn't a big favourite of mine, but I did like it well enough, and I watched it again in preparation, and I say it still holds up well today. Probably my favourite thing about the show is the characters. They may not be the most deep and memorable characters ever written, but they are entertaining, likeable, and all capable of getting a laugh every now and then. They surprisingly work just as well in the mission bits as they do the mundane subplots like, I have to order a size large? Also, their weird pressy nemesis Mandy talks like this.
I'm executing a stealth attack on your lame spy existence!
Ah yes, this is why voice acting. Plus, it was one of the first Western shows to use anime-style influences, even predating Teen Titans and Avatar, and it still looks great 20 years later. My opinions aside, the show was a big success, and you know what that means. Yep, video games.
Oh, games, yeah!
First of which being, well, Totally Spies on the Gameboy Advance. But wait a moment, it's a game about female spies? Shouldn't I be playing this on a Game Girl Advance? I am so sorry for my use of shitty boomer humor. Developed by Mystic Software, who are also responsible for, wow, a Pajama Sam and Freddy Fish game on the Wii? I didn't even know they had Wii games. And published by Atari. This might seem strange, but I'm going to talk about presentation first, because this game knocks it right out of the goddamn park. Level of effort of detail they have put into the game is simply unreal, as early as the opening FMV, which shows the show's opening itself and really helps push the Game Boy's technology. And it extends into the game too. The level of attention to detail is immaculate. The game features cutscenes, and they even include aspects like the location and time pointers that would appear in the series. Sound effects common in the show, and even features the little transitional thing that they have for, I guess, ad breaks. I don't know what you call them. The compact mirror thing they use as a communicator is also a menu, and that's also really cool to see. It even extends to gameplay with the little animations. For example, look at the way Alex recovers from a jump to pull herself up. So bloody cool. As well as the super smooth animations for things like combat and when you're nearly going to fall over an edge, and the expressions pulled. Very good stuff. And getting a game over is great. Yeah, losing is cool in this game, because instead of it just saying game over, you actually get a unique slide for each section of gameplay to represent when you got your game over. Some of these are just brilliant to look at. Really gets you wondering what's going on in their heads as these events are all happening. But what about gameplay? Oh yeah, that's right. It's also a game, isn't it? Curious. Yeah, it's fine. It's fine. Of course, you get control of all three of the main characters in the show. Sam, Alex, and Clover. A good sign is when all of the main characters are playable and not just one or two or, something dumb. The weird thing is, it's hard to really explain gameplay since, in actuality, it's more like a gameplay roulette in that the game is ambitious in having you play multiple types of gameplay instead of focusing on maybe just, one or two. It's not something I am personally fond of. Might be just because I'd rather get good and learn the one or two gameplay types. Not saying to myself, boy, that minigame where you lower yourself down on a rope was tough, but now I have to master a buggy version of Simon.
Jesus, Simon!
What's more, they only appear like once, so when you do it, you're done for good. Would have been more meaningful if we had more of them, but whatever, you do you. Totally Spies on the Game Boy Advance, which happened to come out the same year as Pokemon Emerald. Sure, no, I see you. Not helping is the fact the game itself is rather short. In total, you have 5 levels divided out into 3 sections. So in total, you have only about 16 different sections, but at least 11 different types of games going on. It would be fine if the game was long enough to compensate, but it isn't. And it's not like they're really mini-games either. The best portions of gameplay were easily the stealth missions, and the sections where you do platforming as Alex to find 6 thingies depending on the level. Maybe since they are what I thought the game was primarily going to focus on, but also because they ended up being the most fun sections of the game to play. Stealth sections involve, you guessed it, avoid being spotted by enemies or lights or I don't know, cinnamon. I found these to be decently tricky, but in a way they still felt like the most fair parts of the game. Not to mention the many checkpoints in the stages, so if you mess up, you aren't sent too far back, which can be alright and, doesn't feel as if you're wasting loads of time. Sections where you need to find 6 items are really good too. You have to navigate around a series of areas and try and deactivate or, say, free captors. There are 3 of these sections at least, which is nice, but it's not like even a big portion of the game, sadly. Once you did the final stage and you have to race to the exit of the level, it actually felt like you were somewhat being put to the test. See how much you've learned and grown since the start somewhat in what was an otherwise lackluster and disappointing last level that didn't also test similar virtues you've been taught until now.
Major Bumsville!
If I had to knock it in any regard, it's that levels are a bit indistinguishable at parts, so navigating can be rather difficult since it's not quite a straightforward route. Especially the Spooktober area. And you can get lost a bit too easily. I can't imagine adding a mini-map or something would have hurt and made it more manageable, but whatever. It doesn't ruin it too badly, I suppose. What does hurt the game badly is the submarine stage on the final level, which is completely deplorable. Common to hear complaints about underwater stages and the way they control is usually never well thought out and just plain awful to deal with. Sure, games have gotten underwater controls down pretty well before, such as the games done by Insomniac, but a lot don't. Submarine controls, I am convinced, have never been executed in a satisfying way, almost like every game developer has been trapped in a submarine and nearly drowned, so they translated their PTSD into the work ethic. It shows. The biggest issue is the submarine is too fast. Even lightly tapping the direction you want to go yanks it forward, which can make navigating narrow areas more taxing than they should. Meaning you are likely to be a casualty to the many death traps, as the controls don't compensate for the fact you need to take your time through these areas. Fending off against enemy subs is also a big problem. Although you may have the advantage in firepower, it doesn't really mean crap if the enemy is directly above or below you, as you have 0 ways to fight back when this happens. And so you need to be hit in order to advance, as the enemy's path is based off when they see you and start chasing you to a point. But this doesn't mean it'll turn away or anything. It will just sort of linger there, menacingly. The only real saving grace I can say is, thank God it is not under a time limit, or I'd be talking about this in an even more frustrated tone of voice. Oh, but there are branching paths to bombs. You can easily miss the first time like I did and need to redo it since the level design makes backtracking horrible. I already talked about controls in the subsection, but oddly enough, I think it's still worth mentioning them now here since I used 2 different control styles when playing.
There's 2 of them!
Why? Because for some reason, using a regular controller for certain button prompt games doesn't work correctly, and has a response issue that reads everything incorrectly and causes issues with the game. So, in those cases, I straight up needed to swap to keyboard controls, and from there, I was able to play again properly. Somehow. Not really a fault solely to blame on the game, maybe it's the emulator or how I set things up, but it is very bizarre this even happened to me when playing. There are a few boss battles and they're decent enough for what they're worth. Granted, they do tell you how to beat them, which could be a buzzkill depending on the player. They weren't particularly difficult once you got a hold of the patterns and controls they threw at you, and in the case of one boss battle they actually give you checkpoints, so that's pretty neat. I guess when it really comes down to it, with the exception of the submarine stage, the game is ultimately a bit too easy. That didn't mean I still messed up plenty of times, but once I knew what to do, I was usually able to quickly best it, no issues. In fairness, you could say the game is easy to appeal to younger fans of the show, or perhaps fans who aren't really into games, so it probably wasn't meant for me. Since the foundations for a great title are there, it's just not being realized under the over-ambitious attempts to try different styles of gameplay in a small game. Verdict-wise, it's a bit hard to nail down what I think of this game. On the one hand, the level of attention to detail and presentation is outstanding and helps it really look like one of the best games on the system purely on aesthetics and style. But the actual game itself is too short, a bit too easy, and too bogged down with too much going on with different types of gameplay that aren't used enough or just aren't handled well at all. Like I said, it's a shame since I was really excited to start playing it when I saw the intro and the visuals. But the game itself doesn't follow the same brilliance. I'm not sure what to recommend except go watch the show. The official channel has been uploading the episodes free to watch, and like I said, the show is still simple good fun for what it's worth. Well, I'm now going to continue my plan for world domination against pizza. Have a good day.